Welcome to Facts TV News, where everything is true. Former Prime Minister calls for political unity to resist institutional forces threatening education sector. Former Prime Minister Bruce Golding is calling for political unity to resist what he says are institutional forces to reform the country's education system. His comments come as the country prepares to begin to implement the recommendations of the Orlando Patterson-chaired Education Transformation Commission. Mr. Golding says the government and opposition must join forces to face down those who would resist efforts to transform education in Jamaica.
And that carve-out means that we must also carve it out of political cascas and finger-pointing. Talk about consensus and continuity. That carve-out means that government and opposition must join forces to face down the opponents of change, because there are plenty out there, to beat down the institutional resistance to reform, wherever it is to be found, in education, in public sector transformation, in economic reform. The Jamaica Teachers Association is the most powerful pressure group in the country. They know how to play off government and opposition against each other. Their ultimate weapon is to all fall sick on the same day. Performance pay is resisted. Certification requirements are resisted. Schools are closed for 13 weeks out of the year. The children are sent home. So too are the teachers. Yet the teachers are entitled to 4 months vacation leave after 5 years of service. And it is hell and powder house if the Minister of Finance don't find the money to pay them. Which enterprise, what type of business could afford to pay their employees to stay home for 13 weeks out of the year? And on top of that, every 5 years, to pay them to stay home for another 17 weeks. And if government and opposition are not prepared to get together to face down these institutional resistance to change and reform, they're going to continue to not only run rings around us, they're going to run rings around the future of the children. Listen out for the JTA's response to the Patterson report and try to pick up the pieces after it has been shredded.
Meanwhile, former Education Minister Maxine Henry Wilson has conceded that politicians from both sides are weary of stoking confrontations with the Jamaica Teachers Association.
Mrs. Henry Wilson, certainly when you were Education Minister, the present minister and ministers past, aren't you all afraid of the JTA? That when you need to take the big decisions and the JTA says no, you just shy away from it?
I don't know if it's afraid, but it is. You are correct in the sense that...
Not afraid of them galvanizing political support against decisions?
We recognize that they certainly, from the perspective of them, we recognize their political, how should I put it? Say then.
And in recognizing it, you shy away from confronting them.
Sometimes you don't want to get into a confrontation.
Isn't that a mistake,
that's
though?
Okay. That's okay not to try to get in a confrontation, but sometimes you may have to take decisions that are not necessarily the most popular. I think we have to fix our communities and fix our families. Again, when you look at where we love to talk about, it's not just the education system trying to be heroic. What happens is that you have families, you have communities. You can't ask a child who comes from a community that is in a constant state of disruption and who can only come to school 3 days a week. So my view, when I was a minister, I tried to do some of it, and we were resisted by the Ministry of Finance. We need to have a cohort of social workers in addition to our units of discipline. A social worker is somebody with a special skill.
Johnson Simit defends amended Transport Authority Act. Leader of Government Business in the Upper House, Kamina Johnson Simit, is defending provisions of the amended Transport Authority Act, which prohibit what is called abusive and calculous language being heard at traffic inspectors. The minister says there is a need to change the toxic culture which surrounds taking public transportation.
Public inspectors must be, conductors must be, drivers must be decent and courteous as well. So this is not to remove the burden from them. They are also dealt with in the Act, and they will also be treated with in their regulations. But this is about saying that all stakeholders, both the providers of the service and the users of public transportation services, there's no reason why taking public transport should be the distasteful experience which it is. The reduction of the fee in respect of use of abusive and calumnious language to an inspector in the lawful exercise of his duty, and that is the fine reducing from 500 to 100,000, and the 6 months being reduced to 30 days. And we also but we have the use of threatening language or behavior which is threatening or intimidatory to an inspector while he is lawfully carrying out his duties as an inspector, not in any other circumstances. And this is reduced from 500,000 to 250,000 and from 6 months to 3. All over the world, people take public transport, and it is decent and orderly. People know what their role is. If my job is to let you on the bus and let you off the bus, then I can do that without trying to touch you or engage you in all manner of inappropriate discussion. It's not necessary. It's not normal. And we're accepting these things as if they are normal, and it's okay, it's just culture. Yes, culture is strategy for breakfast every day. In a corporate setting, that's great to speak about, but to accept the most damaging parts of what has manifested or is now manifesting as culture as a part of who we want to be as Jamaican? Not in Jamaica 60.
2 JCF members charged with murder by Indicom. 2 members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force have been charged with murder by the Independent Commission of Investigations Indicom. Corporal Miguel Ebanks and Constable Purcell Carter were placed before the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Court. They were charged with the fatal shooting of Philip Walters at East Kirtland Heights, St. Andrew on Saturday, July 16, 2022. These charges were a result of an investigation by Indicom with support from the JCF and a ruling by the Office of Director of Public Prosecutions. Both Corporal Ebanks and Constable Carter were each charged with murder, shooting with intent, making use of a firearm to commit a felony. Corporal Ebanks was further charged with 2 counts of committing an act of corruption. 2 policemen will remain in custody until the next mentioned date, which is scheduled for Friday, August 5, 2022. Police chase leads into Donna Donalds' murder investigation. The police continue to chase leads in the murder of social media influencer Donna Donaldson. This despite the arrest and charge of her boyfriend, Constable Noel Maitland, for her death. Deputy Commissioner of Police Fitzbailey investigators have been very guarded due to the sensitivity of the probe.
What I will say, we are doing other lines of inquiry. The investigation is so delicate that I have to be very careful. And our style is that I really don't disclose much regarding an investigation until after the fact. Because there are many people who are listening, and those, if there are other persons involved, they also monitor the media. Mm-hmm. And so we have to be very guarded in terms of the information that we reveal. But what I will say, we are pursuing other lines of inquiry.
Yes.
Well, we don't know what we are talking about. Proof of life based on our investigation. It's between that time based on what we don't know how. We don't know how.
And that would be a big part of really completing your investigation, eh?
How is important, but we just need to have circumstantial evidence that can be used to demonstrate that the person, was killed. And even without a body being found, we can advance a case before the court. And I think we are going to advance a very strong case. And we hope that, we will find our body, because I think this will bring closure to the family. There were arguments being made regarding the female constable. Mm-hmm. And at this time, and I've said it before, we have no evidence to link her to the incident. Absolutely none. Mm. We have done the check. We have done lines of inquiries. We have looked at different scientific and technological evidence that's available, and we have not seen any evidence to link her.
Meanwhile, Commissioner of Police Major General Anthony Anderson says the Donna Donaldson incident involving a member of the constabulary is another case of tragedy associated with interpersonal conflicts. Major General Anderson says it's also critical to highlight the challenges police face when conducting investigations in an atmosphere where fake news abounds.
I'm not referring to news with inaccuracies. I'm referring to fabricated and misleading stories in relation to an investigation. Every time these fabrications are published, they not only divert the attention of the police, but they further traumatize the grieving family and loved ones and enrage the genuinely concerned. It begs the question, whose agenda does this serve? These fake news elements do not serve the interests of the family, they don't serve the interests of law enforcement, and they do not serve the interests of justice. When fake news muddies the water and causes people to lose faith in the integrity of the judicial process, It only benefits the guilty.
3 left homeless after house fire bombed in Portmore. At least 3 people have been left homeless after fire engulfed their homes in Portmore, St. Catherine. The houses were reportedly firebombed. Public Relations Officer at the Jamaica Fire Brigade, Emilia Ebanks, told reporters that firefighters received calls about the first fire shortly after 6 a.m.
At 6:01 a.m., we received a call of fire at the Portmore fire station that a house in Gregory Park was on fire. We responded immediately. On arrival. We came across a house, a 1-bedroom that was constructed of zinc and board that was on fire. The house was burnt out prior to the arrival of the brigade, so we merely carried out cooling down operation. From that incident, 1 person has been left homeless, and the estimated loss is $600 million, and the risk is $5 million. At 6:40 a.m., the Spanish Town station responded to a call of fire at 8 Mitchell Drive in Gregory Park, St. Catherine. On arrival, we were directed to a house where it was observed the fire had caused extensive damage to the building and its content. However, the fire was put out prior to the arrival of the fire brigade. So again, we carried out cooling down operation on this incident, and we were told that the owners actually live abroad and 2 persons were occupying that building, and as a result of that, they are homeless. The estimated loss is $10 million and the risk is $20 million. We presently have investigators on scene trying to ascertain the cause of these 2 fires.
Please remember to subscribe, like, share, and click the notification bell for daily updates.